40 people or something. I've never seen him change his voice. I've never seen him change the use of his words and where he places his words to influence in any way. And that is a goal of mine. And I think I don't like people say you should, but it's a goal of mine and I influence people. It'll end up becoming goals of others to be the maximum version of who we are. Be in this video game of life, be your maximum character of who you are, and that's where your ultimate happiness will arrive.
You know, one thing I want to touch on, because this is something like we've talked about. There's many different paths to get to a certain destination, but being aligned on that destination and, you know, with Alo's values, getting people into yoga, getting them into shavasana, getting them into that meditative state to really show people and teach people how to control their minds and to amplify their positive subconscious and to suppress their negative subconscious. And that's a really important thing. I mean, you know, for one, something that Ye has had to learn to do, you know, on his own, but that we all have to learn to do. We've talked about, you know, kids on, you know, iPads at 2 years old and with, you know, cell phones and social media and video games and all of these ways we need to give people an outlet on how to deal, you know, with their minds. And today I was saying, hey, I'm a big believer in digital, and we were talking about digital, and he has started his own school already. I don't know if the listeners know that.
Well, we're on our third year, but we're leaning into people in industry like Danny who understand how to organize our next systems. You know, schools are systems, politics, cities are systems, and for us to simplify and embrace certain things. Like one of the things, it was this room where they do fittings, and the table was really like 2 feet wide and 6 inches long. And I said, why is this table shaped like that? And they said, well, all they need is room for the laptop. And I was like, oh, we got to put that in the schools. To have a school that instead of saying turn the phones off and turn the laptops and iPads off, we embrace that is there, and then learn how to use all the things that are there.
Right.
You know, learning how to use technology. I can have a tendency to just be like paranoid of robots, but it's the way that we have to exist because, I mean, Star Wars is my, you know, college. You know, I spent way more hours in Star Wars than I spent in college. And when I see those, like, the way those robots are working in the factory, I walk through that space and know that, you know, in the same way we have a position of influence now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we'll have a position in influence. And some of the people that are very influential now will still be very influential then, but the world will be a lot more like all the ideas that George Lucas channeled in Star Wars. Like, he was channeling. Like, how do you make that? How do you invent Pixar? Like, that's like people, that's a lesser known thing that George Lucas went and put people together to invent Pixar. So something I was saying when I was seeing the factories today with Danny was, you know, the people who made fighter jets or modern flight, they had to get people who were the best at engineering at that time, and they were engineering boats and trains and cars, and to take the best of the best and get them to do a completely different kind of vehicle. And that's what I've been pushing Danny on. Like, let's do a different kind of vehicle. Well, what is that vehicle? A vehicle for happiness. What's the vehicle for happiness? Simplifying our everyday life. Right now, everything has been driven, no pun intended, as GM, you know, took up the train tracks to make sure, and suburban communities got like spread out, so you'd have to drive more. We haven't designed our world up to this point to maximize. Has been driven, no pun intended, as GM, took up the train tracks to make sure, and suburban communities got like spread out, so you have to drive more. Uh, we haven't designed our world up to this point to maximize our existence on this planet as a species. And I'm really big on this concept of species right now, that's not separating us by China, America, Russia, race, gender, socioeconomic class, age, but just say species. So I'm really big on like outlawing stairs. And people will get into like arguments with me with stairs, but like, and okay, yeah, we can have up ramp, but not upstairs. Everything should be designed like an old folks home, because if we're lucky, we'll all turn to old folks.
Yeah.
So why are we so selfishly designing while we're in the position of power to determine what the world looks like and how it functions, that we're not considering how it should be in the future?
Right.
And that future is now. We're in 2022, and everything happens for a reason. So, you just get to a point, right? And every time you get to that point, everyone wants to say, oh, it's mental health. And everybody wants you to apologize a million times, because everybody want to have everyone so doped out, so controlled out, that you're not allowed to even stand up for the things that you're handing to your family. And the idea of taking the control and opinions or anything away from the mother or the father takes away a person's meaning in life. Doesn't matter how much money you have, the meaning that's going to be directly your church, your home is your original church. So even to this day, it's like I'll still give Kim advice on things that can help, because that's going to go to the kids. That's going to go,
Right.
that she's still got to, basically 80% of the time raise those children. So I want to raise this, when people saw this, what I was going back and forth on is, hey, I have to be able to throw my version of what people would throw, like a Rick Owens or Margiela or Yeezy's on, to the curriculum, because my parents were able to do that to me. They showed me anime when I was 8 years old, or my dad had drafting tables, or I was in computer programming class, or I was programming video games in 7th grade. And the standard curriculums that are there, we have to balance them, because it shows you how to interact in today's society and all that. But we have to balance things with curriculums that allow for self-confidence, because so many of the schools in modern indoctrinations take away from the confidence that these future leaders would have in themselves. And those less confident leaders lean on lying as opposed to leaning on the truth, first.
You guys have both accomplished so much. I'd love to hear about what you haven't done yet that you're working on, excited about.
I haven't finished that house in Malibu, I'll tell you that. I took the house, and I took the stone floors were the same stone that Apple bought the quarry for this the floor, this Tato Ando home. And Tato Ando, I believe he's 84, but it would be polite for me to say that he's considered to be the world's one of the world's greatest architects. It would be yay for me to say he is considered to be the world's greatest architect. He is the yay of all the architects. And what I did was take the windows out, because it's right on the water, just to hear the water, to have the unconditioned air and use the natural light. And then we're putting up this parking lot mesh. Now we're just going through everything. I'm driving all the time. I'm seeing like park. I'm like, I like that mesh. Right? Why can't we find this mesh? This mesh is perfect. Because, Tesla said the earth is a giant generator. We'll be in California right now doing this podcast. I got some ideas on how to turn the podcast to a Godcast by putting it where this can be open to natural light. And instead of having like these like 5 versions of lights and all this, it's like, just like how that light fell down, we were already onto something. So we will remember what this was like. And just by even just simply going and getting a James Terrell space that then we can do podcast in, or having James Terrell spaces where people do yoga is the next level of what we do. And James Terrell and Tato Ando have worked together a lot. And I've, been to the Rodent Crater, donated to the Rodent Crater. So on the process of this Tato Ando, I've just been there. Maybe it's a thing like going through divorce also, to get this like house and be able to just take everything out. And it was, extremely therapeutic. But in it, we started solving things, ideas of what we would do for actual shelters. Because people are always like, oh, I'm totally down to meet with the guy from Boxable. Like I want to see it, it's fine. The idea of it is good, but I know Elon stays in a Boxable. I believe it's the thing we need to give displaced and nomads, and these are other words for homeless, would be the same thing we would have for ourselves. So I'm a bit of a Robin Hood in a way where, people can go and say, okay, this like multi-billionaire spent $4 million on Balenciaga in 1 year, but did I bring the designs back down to earth as much as I could? Because Gap didn't take it to $20 the way I wanted to, because they were still trying to protect the classism of the idea of Balenciaga and the idea of Gap, or the idea of a Gap and Ye collaboration and Balenciaga collaboration. My thought is to take it and bring it. I mean, let's take it and get it to free, but at least get it to $20. So as I, talk about this idea that the house was 75 million, I ended up getting it for 57 million, and then going and breaking the house in half and saying, let me look at the bones of what the Tato Ando, the greatest living architect's idea was, and what his idea before having to deal with the clients and make these compromises, right? And through it, we've found ways that we can apply what we learned from that to parking lots. And I'm gonna just public domain the concept, right? So that all architectural teams can do this. Remove stairs, use ramps, create environments where people can lock the door from the inside to be able to go to sleep, have a modern Turkish bath type situation that has privacy so people can get clean and have room temperature food. Shelters completed. Next subject. And I said that out there not to say, okay, every architectural firm in the world attempt that and see what we get on the other side of that. The way people were flipping lofts and warehouses, and my, architectural partners and real estate partners gonna be like, no, yay, you gave away the idea. Exactly, because the idea isn't ours in the first place. We're to be a channel. We're to be a vessel.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's dope.
good.
Yeah.
Danny, you've talked about how you want to change kids' experience in schools with yoga and mindfulness. And we've done things with Aloe Gives, but you have kind of a bigger idea there. Would you like to talk about it?
Well, one thing that Ye was saying earlier, and I agree with, is that schools teach us to be one way. And we envision one day
Rhymed.
schools.
Rhyme alert.
Schools having.
Who's the rapper here?
Schools having, a place for people to go and practice, to decompress, to be able to, meditate. When I think about Aloe, and I think leading the movement in this alternative lifestyle of health and wellness, particularly mental wellness, and seeing really what the commercial sports have been able to do by putting in baseball diamonds and basketball hoops and football fields, soccer fields, and all these different ways to support their commercial team sports. I think that with what we have been doing, which we were on a wonderful trajectory of bringing our curriculum into schools before, COVID, when breath work became a negative thing. But one day, I look forward to getting right back on that path. It's just today, breath work is still not a real big positive thing.
Feeling is a crime at this point. Breathing is a crime at this point. Literally, it's like breathing is a crime.
Right.
So when we do our company, and when we do things that are based on schools, because that's the main idea, to make the school. It's not about fashion brand. It's not about, because the curriculums that have been given to people right now force that triangle you drew out this morning, where it goes from influencer to more influencers to early adopters
Right,
to
to
audience
critical mass.
to critical mass.
Yeah.
We have to educate the critical mass on esteem. We have to educate the critical mass on religions, all the religions. We have to educate the critical mass on breathing, on yoga. We have to educate the critical mass on financial literacy. We have to educate, or not even educate, let's say expose information, because educate's even a little bit, do this like that, like we have to educate on physics. How do things actually work? How do the pipes, the water, how does that work?
Right.
So our school is around engineering, food, that's the most important. That's the top. We're nomadic. The idea of a home is a concept placed on us anyway. But I bet you're going to need some food.
That's right.
And I ain't sorry for using incorrect English when saying that, because I bet you if you in a spot where you need some food, the last thing you're going to be worried about is how correct your English is about it. So the most important thing is your food. The second thing is your sleep, the ability to sleep. That gets into a home situation. So you can sleep well and rest well at night. So our school, for lack of a new dondified word, is going to expose engineering of food, shelter, clothing, automotive, computer, hardware and software, financial literacy, and just as a shout out to Elon, rocket science for the kiddos.
Sick.
Hel-
So good.
I
Healthy.
love that.
How's your sleep hygiene? What's your sleep like? What do you?
I'm obviously not getting any sleep. I must be in an episode. Everyone is a medical PhD, right? When it comes to episodes and injuries, right? If someone thinks that you're in an episode, they're like, you need sleep. I'm like, thank you. Who's the most famous doctor of all time? Dr. Fauci?
Yeah, Dr. Fauci. Yes.
It's like,
yes.
you're in an episode, you need sleep. Thank you, Dr. Fauci, right? And then another one is like, if you like hurt yourself or something like that, what does everyone say? Oh, put ice on it. Thanks, PhD.
So good.
Why would there be hospitals if putting ice on it was literally the cure to
All cures.
the cure of all cure? Put ice on it. That's what I did with my first chain and my first watch. I definitely put some ice on it.
Nice.
I'm trying to, I don't know if I got that whole, I kind of went on like this 7-part visual experience. These aren't rants I'm giving you. These are visual experiences, right? I'm painting a picture, a sonic picture. Walk with me here. So the idea is people shame the concept of mental health. It is the lowest form of discrimination. Why? Because you take anything that someone is discriminated for, and that person can discriminate against you and call you crazy. Even a crazy person can call you crazy.
Right. Right.
And it's an interesting, weight to carry. It's an interesting tick here and there. It's like a But some people said that the COVID shot was the mark of the beast. It's like a mark of the beast on my ego, because I could do something crazy in the best way, and it could be like literally like a random person on the street and point like from 2 blocks away and say that was crazy, and I feel like shit for a little bit, and it hurts as a human being.
Of course.
And it
Sure.
it still like hurts my feelings, and it's nothing I could do. And then I start to talk about, well, I made this amount of money to compensate for people downing me, or the fact that people can, I call it Britney Spears dadding someone. I could be talking like to one of these like CEOs or something, and I'm just talking, and it's like they just press mute, and my lips are moving, and they're not hearing anything I say, and they start talking over me. The whole reason why I went to Gap is every step of the way in my career, there was something in the way of my career. There was like, all the price point is here, or I can only get this much. So I went to Gap like, okay, this is it. And they did the actual thing. They took the design that I did with Dimna from Balenciaga, and they made a $19 version of the t-shirt. They did the dream, but just without Steve. They did the dream without Ye. But they still want to like do it with that kind of background and all these, and mark these words of this interview. I'm gonna run shit. I'm gonna run shit, right? Here's another. I got a lot of thoughts I thought about in the past 2 weeks. Another thing is like, money. The ultimate power is position.
Dude.
It's not money, it's position, because someone in between or at a higher position could determine your fate, and they could have way less money. So when I made that joke about you work at Universal, I could do that because I'm no longer at Universal. So you're no longer the executive that can talk to me like I'm not me. I don't work for you no more. But I honestly believe that Gap and Adidas are part of a bigger plan to marginalize American companies and American industry, which is the opposite of what Danny's doing. And that's why you see this glow coming from me. Because in this prison of finger pointing and name calling, a little crack of light, a little Shawshank Redemption came through that prison cell at that factory today.